How's it going, everybody? I'm meteorologist Joey Cragness, back with your daily forecast. We have some more severe weather possible today, this time in the Ohio River Valley, that system that moved through the southern U.S. yesterday, moving through the Ohio River Valley now today. There is a little bit of uncertainty with how things exactly will play out in terms of hail, wind, and tornadoes. We'll talk about that and what we can kind of expect going into later this afternoon and evening. And then these storms, again, will be moving fairly quickly through the Ohio River Valley today. Storm motions could be anywhere from 50 to 70 miles an hour in some cases, so these storms won't be sticking around for too long. If they do get anchored along a front or a little boundary, though, they could slow down and drop some pretty big hail and possibly a tornado or two. Looking at yesterday's storm reports, late last night we had a storm go through San Antonio, dropping some pretty decent sized hail near Austin, got some good hail as well. And then this Dallas Fort Worth storm got very close to going through Denton, just died down right before it got there, but that dropped some fairly sizable hail as well. Then up in Oklahoma, which is actually where the highest risk area was centered, not much happened. There were some smaller hailstorms. There was one that dropped some decent hail, but other than that, it avoided the highest population centers for the most part. Had a couple of reports of tornadoes going through northeastern Oklahoma later on in the afternoon and evening yesterday. And then up in Missouri, we had a fairly solid storm go through St. Louis, dropping some good hail just north of Springfield as well. But that's mainly where these storms were centered, were down south and up north of that risk area. And then we had a few random hailstorms, one way out in Virginia, a couple in Ohio, but for the most part, yesterday kind of underperformed from what some of the models were suggesting. Looking at one of our 3-star maps from yesterday, the storm that got really close to going through Denton went through Briar, Justin, Northfield, got some pretty good hail out of that. 4.5 inches was the maximum size. Now that was just one report, so it was fairly isolated with that fairly large hail, but it did impact 25,000 homes or structures out there with that hail. So some pretty substantial stuff. I don't know where my other map went. I must have turned that one off. But I meant to go through our 3-star map from St. Louis as well. That one impacted over 111,000 homes going through St. Louis over there. But I think that had a max hail size of 2 3/4 inches, I want to say. But looking at what we have going on right now, some severe thunderstorm warnings for West Virginia. I have this nice little system going through there, producing some fairly strong winds. And then down south in Tennessee and Kentucky out there, have a severe thunderstorm watch out for some of these stronger cells that could be producing some just above severe level hail, as well as some stronger wind gusts. Zooming back out countrywide, we got this nice trough sitting right over the central U.S. right now. That's going to kick off to the northeast later on this afternoon, producing some pretty nice conditions for hail, wind, and tornadoes out in the Ohio River Valley. Temperatures cooled down quite a bit behind that cold front down in Oklahoma and Texas. Dropping temperatures right now, 48 degrees in Oklahoma, 56 in Dallas. So pretty cool compared to yesterday when we were getting in the 70s and 80s in a few areas. But we'll see how things play out later. Got some snow actually up in the Midwest, so things are looking pretty good up there. A late season snowstorm. Looking at our significant tornado parameter, so this combines a bunch of different environmental conditions to give this one tornado index here. We see right about 1 p.m. this afternoon, looking at this bullseye kind of forming in southern Indiana and Ohio and northern Kentucky. that'll continue to push off to the northeast later on this afternoon and evening. Could see a few stronger storms develop into that area. It looks like Pittsburgh will kind of be just on the outskirts of our risk area, so not expecting too much from them, but I wouldn't count them out for getting hit by a stray storm or two out there. And then we also get this little bubble of favorable tornado conditions popping up along the Gulf Coast later on this evening and into the overnight hours. That'll continue to carry off to the east as we go into tomorrow afternoon. They could see a few little spin-ups along the east coast out there with how that system is interacting with the coast. Looking at the significant hail model, so similar to the tornado parameter, combines a bunch of different environmental conditions to spit out one number that we can look at to kind of get an idea of what hail conditions are looking at. And sorry, I can't make it hail in Pittsburgh. I wish I could just, turn the hail on and off for certain areas, but I don't have those capabilities. I haven't learned that yet in meteorology. So looking at the significant hail model, see that kind of lines up with where the strongest tornado conditions were, and that's kind of how we see things develop. But this extends a little bit farther south down into central Tennessee, and that will persist just slightly longer into the evening. And then like the tornado parameter, we'll see that those favorable conditions kind of push up onto the Gulf Coast later on this evening and into the overnight hours. Tomorrow, for the East Coast, not looking as favorable for hail as it will for tornadoes, so those storms kind of weakening and dying out a little bit as we go into tomorrow for the East Coast. This is what we got right now for our future radar. See some storms popping up in Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, and then a few for Indiana and Illinois out there. Zooming into the Ohio River Valley region, looking at some more storms possible just south of Indianapolis, looking at Kentucky, good storm coverage out there, and into West Virginia. Those storms could impact a good chunk of Ohio. Pretty much the entire state could see a favorable risk for hail, wind, and tornadoes going into this afternoon, but this threat is very conditional. If we get some isolated storms that develop, all hazards will be possible with those isolated storms. But if we have this congealed mess of storms, those conditions are less favorable for significant hail and wind and tornadoes out there. But any isolated cell that gets forming in this environment has the potential to produce very large hail, some tornadoes, as well as some damaging wind gusts out there. Going into this evening, though, you see that threat still persisting into Kentucky. That'll move into West Virginia, and then as these storms kind of form into basically just a big mess of thunderstorms into the overnight hours, that threat will diminish quite a bit, but we could still see an isolated storm or two produce some larger hail, and maybe a brief spin up, but after this point, that tornado threat pretty much dies off pretty quickly into the overnight hours. Then focusing on the southern region, could see some isolated storms pop up in Mississippi and Louisiana, but these storms are expected to form into a line pretty quickly, so mainly a wind threat down south, but if we do get some isolated storms that pop up in front of the line, like you see on this model right here, those could produce some larger hail with it as well. And then nothing for Nebraska. That's pretty much out of the realm of possibilities for today. This cold front kind of swept through and just reduced all of those favorable conditions that were present yesterday. So nothing for them today, but then this system will continue to push off to the east into early tomorrow morning. So what can we expect for the maximum hail size? I don't expect this to happen, but it is possible with the conditions that we have today. So baseball size hail is what I'm going to say is the maximum possible hail size what I think is the most likely possible hail size for today, based on how things could play out, is probably that 2-inch size. But if we do get an isolated storm that forms in these favorable conditions, we could see up to baseball-sized hail in some of those storms. So finally, getting to the hail map for today, slightly less aggressive than yesterday. I think today is going to be more of a tornado type day. Brief spin-ups here and there. We could see a long track storm, a couple of long track storms, mainly through the Kentucky and West Virginia area. So that's where I have this region kind of focused on. So hail, Atlanta, Birmingham, Memphis, kind of on the edge of that risk area. And the Atlanta and Birmingham risk is very conditional on if we get those isolated cells forming ahead of that line of storms later on this afternoon and evening. And then up in the Ohio River Valley, got high risk for Charleston, West Virginia, and Cincinnati, Ohio. I would have added Lexington on there as well, but it would have been covered up by the Cincinnati risk. But that's where I think the largest risk for that large hail will be, that hatch risk, showing the 2+ inches of hail possible there. Columbus on the northern edge of that risk. So if we do get a stray cell, the conditions are favorable for some large hail in Columbus, same with Indianapolis, but it's looking like where this warm sector is going to be lining up right in this hatched area. That's the best possibility for that large hail risk going into this afternoon. And then it doesn't want to load. There we go. Breaking it down by city, Indianapolis, timing between 2 and 6 p.m. this afternoon. That is Eastern time. And then max hail size up to golf ball, but that risk for golf balls is fairly low. Moderate chance for 1-inch hail, though. Like I said, low for golf ball plus sized hail for Indianapolis. Columbus, looking a little bit later, 7 to 10 p.m. For the largest severe threat out there. Again, about $half sized hail for them. So they are on the smaller side, because it's looking like the storms won't be as isolated as they get into Columbus. Moderate chance for 1-inch hail, but still a moderate chance for that golf ball plus sized hail out there, depending on if we get those isolated storms to form. Lexington, Kentucky. Oh, I messed up my position there. That's Charleston, West Virginia, not Kentucky. But looking at 1 to 9 p.m. for Lexington, 2-inch hail is what I'm going to say is the maximum size possible for there. A pretty solid chance for that 1-inch plus hail, but only a moderate chance for the golf ball plus. So, like I said, conditions or storms are very conditional today, depending on how things exactly play out. But if things play out like we're expecting them to, similar to Lexington, Charleston could see 2-inch hail or greater, a decent chance for 1-inch plus, and a moderate chance for greater than 1.75 inches. So timing for Charleston, West Virginia, 2 to 10 p.m. So a little bit later, but a much longer duration. So about an 8-hour window for Charleston that they could see some pretty sizable hail. Then looking at our tornado threat, Lexington and Charleston have that highest chance for tornadoes out there, just because looking at all the models, they seem to be agreeing that some isolated cells should be able to form in the north central Kentucky and far western West Virginia areas sometime between early afternoon and late evening. So that's why I have them as the highest risk. And then Columbus, Indianapolis, Nashville, all on the lower end of that threat, but still possible if we get some isolated cells. And then if we get a line that moves through, we could see a few brief spin-ups along that line as well. So that's something that we'll be watching out for and seeing how things play out later on this afternoon. So going a little bit farther, a little bit long range, this is what we can expect for tomorrow. We have this nice cutoff low in the upper levels solid jet streak along the East Coast, so that's going to be fueling those possible storms along the East Coast tomorrow. And then we have this next system coming through that could makes things a little bit interesting as we get into the weekend. Saturday, that could push off into the south central plains. So this is your chance for, you could see Nebraska getting hit with some severe storms. We'll probably have this low focused right in southern Nebraska, northern Kansas. That'll push off to the northeast. And then we'll have this long cold front that stretches down through Oklahoma and Texas. So we could see some severe storms fire off of that system going into Saturday and then into Sunday. That system will continue to push off into the Ohio River Valley, making things fairly similar to what we saw yesterday and what we'll be seeing today, that southern plains risk, and then pushing off into the Ohio River Valley the following day. And then beginning of next week, Tuesday, we could see another system pop up in the southern plains. But the big question for both of these systems is how much moisture we'll be able to recover from the system that we had moved through today, or yesterday and today. That'll be the main question on how well storms will be able to actually form off of these multiple systems. So that's all we got for today. If you're interested in learning more about us and staying up to date on all we do, go ahead and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. If you're interested in purchasing a plan, go ahead and scan that QR code up above me, or give us a call at 855-334-4245. Email us at info@hailtrace.com, or check out our website at www.hailtrace.com. That's it for now. I'm meteorologist Joey Kragnes. Thanks for watching.